Hey, 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 Savvy Squad. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Sev Talks Money YouTube and podcast, where we empower women to manage money confidently. This episode is all about embracing bold pivots after 40, choosing yourself, rewriting your story, and stepping into the purpose that's been waiting for you. Today, I'm joined by Linda Murray Bullard, also known as the Business Plug. Linda is an author, international speaker, and business strategist who helps people turn their life experiences into power moves, reconnecting with their dreams, and creating the lives they were meant to live. Linda, welcome to the Dr. Seth Talks Money podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me, Dr. Seth.
You are welcome. It's going to be an exciting episode because I know we could talk and talk and talk all day. Okay.
Double K.
Right. So before I get into the meat of the podcast, I like to kick it off with a icebreaker question. And
Okay.
I'm going to answer this question too. If you could have dinner with any three women, living or historical, who would you choose and what would you want to ask them? And while you're thinking about yours, I'll share my three.
Okay.
So the first one is Madam CJ Walker.
Mm.
I would love to pick her business brain, find out how she was resilient, how she was able to overcome all of the obstacles that were put in her place because she's a woman of color and how she overcame them to become one of the first multimillionaire. The next one will be Michelle Obama. I would love to talk with Michelle Obama because every time I see her, she represents grace under fire. She represents dignity. So I'd love to talk with her because I know some of the things she went through and is going through. I'd be like, my fiery side, my Jamaican fiery side would come up. Oh.
I love that.
And then the last one is Harriet Tubman. There's so many that I have, but I just picked these three. And the last is Harriet because I want to know, Harriet, how did you deal with your people who just would not line up, who you're trying to rescue them, but they acting like you're hurting them? How would you do that? Because in the finance world, sometimes you're trying to help and they don't want to, they need the help and they don't want to be helped. And so I would want to ask Harriet, tell me your tricks, tell me how you did it. Those are my three.
I love it. So my three, and I definitely get Harriet Tubman. Like, I would love to understand her mindset that made her answer the call. Right?
Yes.
Like, that's not your everyday person right there. And the
Mm.
fact that she had sightings and visions, like I can relate to that on a whole. I think I've talked to you about how God told me to do things. And so I can relate to that. So that's definitely appealing to me. What is it? Ayana Van Zant is a person, my young people, I used to have a group of kids that mentored for 13, 14 years. And they used to call me Chattanooga's Ayana. So I would love to have a conversation with her to see if there are any similarities in how we do things. And then the third one is my great grandmother. My great
Mhm.
grandmother's name is Lorinda Taylor. Lorinda Taylor is the oldest record I can find on my father's side has Lorinda Taylor coming out of slavery and owning property and becoming an entrepreneur. Like, I read her story and it put a fire under me. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm not going to drop her legacy on my watch. And so she's the reason I own properties. She's the reason I am an entrepreneur. So I would love to have a conversation with her and talk about how we got to be who we are.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. So, Linda, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little about yourself and the work that you do.
Sure. So my name is Linda Murray Bullard. I go by the three names because they represent different periods of my time and two of the men that I love, my dad and my husband, God rest his soul, my late ex-husband. But they represent them. And I am an author, an award-winning author. I wrote the Well-Ran Dry Memoirs of a Motherless Child because my mother died on Christmas Day when I was 9. By age of 14, I became a mother myself. And my son that I had at 14 is getting ready to retire as a battalion chief at the Chattanooga Fire Department. He is 51 years old. He became qualified to retire a few years ago, and he's been going through it. And so understanding that, yeah, I have a kid that is eligible to retire. And I'm still working that, which is that is a trip. But what I do is I have an onus on my life to teach and educate and empower. And I love through education. I love through teaching and training and helping people to see things that I see for them. I'm a visionary in that my life has taught me how to see potential in everybody and almost everything. And so the business plug, if you notice, it has a light bulb. I am addicted to the light bulb that comes on when people find their untapped potential that I can show it to them. I see that light bulb go out. I want to see it again and again and again. And if you notice, my light bulb in my logo is on. I didn't tell my graphic designer to put it there, but she knows me. And when I told her I'm now the business plug, she immediately put the light bulb on.
I love that backstory. You said you first felt the shift around 39, but it wasn't until 53 that you fully embraced your purpose. Can you take us back to that spark plug, that turning point, so to speak?
Yeah, so all my life I've felt had this calling that felt like I could be doing more, or I should be doing more, or I deserve more. And I looked at my family and I looked at my cousins, how they were property owners and they worked in good places and their kids like went to the best schools and different things. And I wondered why my family didn't mirror the same thing, even though we are relatives. And so I am all about genealogy. I believe if we know where we come from, then we can tell where we're going.
Yeah.
And so in genealogy, I learned that they're my cousins because we are all descendants of 4 sisters. And my grandmother, who was a fire captain, my maternal grandmother was a fire cap. And so I learned how we were all cousins, but then I also learned that there is a legacy in our family that my family wasn't living up to. And it was because they didn't know. And so I became the educator that I am and educated our family on how we were kin to our cousin, and then how we are also kin to the same descendants they are. And so by seeing me, several members of my family became entrepreneurs because I opened that gateway for our side of the family because we weren't living up to our potential. And it was because we didn't know where the benchmark was.
Yeah. Wow. Again, the spark plug, right? The
Yeah.
business plug, making
Yeah.
that plug.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I lead by doing. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that having my son at 14, I wanted my son to have the best life I could provide. And I didn't want him to be lacking due to my situation or his father's situation. And so I wanted to become the example. So it really, when you talk about that plug, it's because I wanted him to be more than I could dream, more than I could see. And I wanted to lead him by doing.
Yeah. Because there's so many times that we see what happened or what is happening with people in our family, and we never see past what could happen if we don't take on those traits. This is what has always happened. My grandmother did it this way. My great grandmother did it this way. But you saw past that and you saw the other side where, yes, this is happening in my family, but then there's also another branch that's doing much better. How can I learn from them, and how can I take that spark and light it with the rest of my family members?
Absolutely. Because the thing about it is we get what's comfortable. It's comfortable to follow my grandmother. The only picture I have of my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, is her jail picture. The night she was arrested for killing my grandfather. Like that's the only picture we have of her, period. And what she introduced into our lives, we know we now suffer from or have the capacity to suffer from mental unhealthiness. She was mentally unhealthy, but she was undiagnosed and untreated. But now we have diagnosis and treatment, and her illness has shown up in a lot of our family members. Now we can conquer that, like live past that, and
Yeah.
yeah, go to the side. So there's also people who were entrepreneurs and people who were speakers and people who my grandfather ran a coal farm in Whiteside, Tennessee, and my grandmother down in Kenner, Louisiana, doing her thing with entrepreneurship. Like there, yeah, you'll find some things that are negative, but it still teaches you learning about those people taught me about who I am and understanding myself better. Like I have my grandmother's temper. I'm not gonna kill anybody, but I can get pretty mad. But once you have a diagnosis and once you understand, like depression is a part of my life, but now I know how to cope. It doesn't have me, I have it. And so that makes a difference. Like in our culture, we look down, and I was telling my sister this the other day. In our culture, we look down on going to therapy and mental health and mental illness. And you if something's wrong with your brain, oh, that makes you crazy and all these things. But if something's wrong with your arm, you go to a doctor and nobody thinks anything about it. If something's wrong with your heart, you go to a heart specialist and nobody thinks anything about it. If our thoughts are off, then we need to go to a therapist. I believe in Jesus and a therapist. Have to be therapists that understand our culture and understand how we operate. Like my sons, God bless them. God's bless. I have two firefighters and a computer programmer, and my sons doing what all the things they do. I can remember them going through therapy because they need it. I'm an advocate for it, but I remember them their therapist saying, "You've been abused by your mama. Your mama mean, but cultural reference. Your therapist needs to have a cultural reference."
Yes. Very
And
important.
very important, because if they don't understand our culture, then yeah, if you had to live a soft life, it looks very, very different from living a life of survival. Like
Yes.
there are things I didn't want my boys to get shot. I didn't want to get the call, and I told them that all their lives. I don't want to get the call where somebody has taken you out. I need to do these things to protect you. Yes. Do they seem extreme? Yes, but I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah.
So, they're all doing well. They're all very productive. They're all in positive lights. I don't have a gangbanger. Like nobody killed them. They all live past 25. My baby's 36. My oldest one's 51. They live past 25 when at a time a lot of young boys didn't think they would get to age 25.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
I was a strict parent. I was determined that the streets couldn't have my baby. And so I love their potential more than I love making them live a soft life.
you love their potential more than you love them being happy with you. Because a lot of parents are wanting their kids to be friends. So they don't
We're
want them
not
to be
free.
me. I don't want them to be mad at me. Okay, you can let them be mad at you now or let the world be mad at them later. You know?
I One of my kids, he wanted to call the police. I caught him calling 911, and I said, "I'll call them." And I called them and invited them over because I was getting ready to give him a whipping, and he said, "I don't want a whipping. She don't need to whip me." And the officer said, "Well, she's whipping you now, so I don't have you later."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he broke down, and I didn't have no problem. The thing about it is I was tough. Yeah, I was tough, but I saw their potential and I loved them with all my whole heart. I have 2 siblings that were delinquent. I was destined not to I no, my boys couldn't be that. I saw the toll that took on my mother. My mother died at 33. At 33 years old, she caught Hong Kong flu and her will to live left her, like quietly left her body. And I talk about that in my book, The Well Ran Drive. I talk about that. But I didn't want that for my kids. Like I saw how that ends, and I didn't want that to be my story. A lot of her life is similar to mine. We started having babies young and we stopped having babies near the same age. But a lot of her story is not my story. And so I don't lay claim to those things. I'm the generational breaker. She died of the Hong Kong flu. The Vietnam soldiers came back and brought that back from Korea. But I survived COVID, which came from Korea, which came from Korea as well. So I'm a survivor. I'm breaking generational curses by making sure that my kids are living differently and that I'm living differently. And I'm teaching my family to live differently because we are not stuck by the things that kept us stuck as a generation. Genealogy would tell you the good and bad of that. And so you get to pick which role you want. You can say, well, my father's always done it, or my mom has always had it, or whatever. But you every day you get to make a decision of which part of your genealogy you want to push forward. and I choose to push success forward for me and my family.
Yeah. You mentioned a book, The Well Ran Dry, and that book became a powerful tool for healing,
Yeah.
not just for you, but for others. What inspired you to share your story so openly?
So when my mother died, my mother had 6 kids. My brother was the oldest of the 6 kids. His father came and got him and took him away. For 37 years, we didn't know if he was living or dead. He was living in LA. We didn't know if he was living or dead. When we reunited, he told me his life story and I told him mine. And something in me said, now that you've connected with him, you can let it go. And in the book, I opened it up with the conversation that he and I made the day after his 50th birthday. And I made track to go see him and hug his neck and let him know that I missed him and I love him. Him being my mother's oldest, me being my mother's youngest, we had got to spend time with each other. And that meant the world to me because again, didn't know if he was living or dead. Over the years, we had tried to find him. We couldn't locate him. But when we finally did, I felt like I could purge all the different things that had happened. Once I told him about my life story, he told me about his. I felt like I could purge and make room. I needed to get rid of all the pain, the hurt, and those negative situations that had been floating in my mind and my heart. Like it was like I was under a cloud. And by writing that book, I gave room for success to come and make home with me. Like all that stuff, all that pent up energy and those things that had happened to me in life and all the darkness and all the everything. Once I was writing, it was so therapeutic, so therapeutic. And after that, I became a different person. Like I told you, at age 39, I have an earring here in my ear to remind me I'm different now. I'm not who I used to be. And so I think different, I act different, I walk different, I live different.
Yeah. Reinvention takes courage. It requires a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means silencing fear, doubt, and outside voices. How did you personally navigate your reinvention journey?
When I lost my job in 2013, when they told me I thought I was gonna retire from that place. I had worked there for 26 years and I just knew that's where I was gonna retire from. But when they told me they no longer needed my services, I had just read an article that said anytime you're separated from a lengthy relationship, you need to quieten yourself and process what happened. And so for the 30 days that I took just living and not really thinking and debriefing and trying to understand what I just went through, that's when I decided that it was not something happened to me as much as something happened for me. And so because something happened for me, it was like all my life, like I started working at 14 and I've always worked to provide for my son to make sure that he had all his basic needs met. And I did that for the other 2 boys as well. And so for the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about their needs. It was time to see what I needed and the dreams that I had put on the shelf and to understand how I get to rebuild my life the way I wanted to for years that I kept putting aside so that I could raise my children. So it became, when I say, and this was like at age 53, so it became awakening. It was like I went through a transition, and for the first time in my entire life, I was able to put me first.
Yeah. Yes. That happens, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't know, for a long time, I thought my favorite color was red. And people said, "What's your favorite color?" And I said, "Oh, it's red." And then when I got by myself and I quieted myself and I listened to me, I love beaches. My favorite color is seafoam, not red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Red represented the entanglement of life I was in, how displeased and out of sorts and not living to my potential. Not necessarily with any particular person, but with myself. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know me. I had no idea who I was. I'd never been alone because my siblings lived in the house with my father. When I was growing up, I'm the youngest of all of them. And then once all of them had moved out and found their lives, I had my son. And so I had never been alone. And in fact, I had to go to a therapist because I had separation anxiety. What? Separation anxiety? Yeah, that's what it was. When my boys would go to their fathers, I got a divorce, and my sons would go to their fathers. The weekends they were with him, I didn't get out of the bed. And I was like, okay, am I losing my cool? Like, what is this? And it was separation anxiety. I had never been alone in my life. And that was at 39.
Yeah. You said something so key. You said you learn to discover yourself. You learn to know who you were. How that is so important because especially as mom, as wives, we tend to take care of everyone else's need. We want to make sure the husband is okay, the house is okay, the kids are okay, all of that. And we lose ourselves when we're going through that.
Absolutely, and I don't regret any of that. Like, all of that adds to my story is what I had to go to get here.
Mhm.
At some point in your life, and be it sooner than later, you need to know who you are. Like, I was who everyone needed me to be
Yeah.
for 39 years. I was doing all the things, checking all the boxes for everyone who needed me to be. For my not just for my immediate family, my kids and my husband, but also for my sibling. Like my brother, I was his caretaker for 29 years. He passed in 2019. And I was his caretaker. And then I was the 10 digits that everybody called, hey Lynn. Like my family calls me Lynn, and not just my siblings, but my siblings' kids. So I was the person, and in therapy, I learned that I had actually I taught people to treat me like I was the
Yeah. Yeah.
mother. And yeah, so I had taught people to be dependent on me.
Yeah.
And then I complained because they were dependent on me.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how that goes? We set our own boundaries. And when we don't set our boundaries, things happen and then we complain about it. We have to go back and set those boundaries and say, this is what I'll do, this is what I won't do. And people will push back. But once we have the boundaries, they know the boundaries are there. But if we don't set boundaries, we can't complain about it, or we can, but it doesn't make sense
It doesn't
because,
do any good to play. Yeah,
yeah,
it
because
does
we
no
told
good.
them how to treat us, right?
I bought the book Act Like a Success by Steve Harvey. And he had a whole group of people called, Act Like a Success. He created the School of Acceleration, the School of Business Acceleration. And I joined it. And Lisa Nichols was one of our coaches. She was his life coach at the time. And she said, go back and when you go home today, tell your family you're sorry. Apologize to your family and let them know that you have led them to believe that your dreams and your visions don't matter. Go back and tell them you're sorry, that it was your fault, that you taught them that everything about them comes before anything about you. And so that exercise, going back and saying, hey guys, guess what? I'm sorry. I have been doing all these things for you, neglecting myself. But please know at this point, I'm going to become a different person.
Yeah.
And at the time, my youngest son was living with me, and he was like, "Okay, mama, whatever, do it."
But because you know what? Most of the times because these things have been going the same way all the time, when we say things, they're not taking our word. They're waiting for our action to see,
Absolutely,
is your action going to measure up with your word? Because
absolutely,
so how many times we hear people say, if you don't do that, I'm gonna hit you. If you don't do
absolutely,
that, I'm gonna take your toys. But they don't do anything.
right.
People get used to, even though I'm complaining about the thing, I'm not doing anything about it. So even when I come with a new rule, they're like, okay, because they're watching for the action, because
They're
that's
waiting
what's
for the
going to tell
action.
them that the boundary, it has been instituted. And
Yes, absolutely. That's what that was. And here's what's funny part. We were driving home from church one day and we stopped by this land. And I said, God told me he's going to build me a house right there. He wanted me to tell you. He wants to show you that all you have to do is believe and ask him, and he can give you the desires of your heart. And my son was like, okay, Ma. So we stopped, we pulled over. I went next door to the land and asked the people who built their home and who owns the land next to them and got that information. And then in a short while, we were building a house where I told him. And today I'm living in that same house, right? And so my son was like, when I tell him things, he'd be like, yeah, because the last time you told me something that God told you, you done built the whole house. So what did God tell you? What did he tell you? Because he said, you done proved to me that you and God, y'all talk. And we
Yeah.
do. And we do. I mean, I live my life on purpose, in purpose.
Yeah. It is so much more freeing to do that.
Yeah.
And for those who feel like they're not living life on purpose, it's okay because we all get there at some
Mhm.
point. None of us are born knowing what it even means to be in purpose. Does that mean to live life on purpose? What does it mean to even know your purpose? We hope that this episode is going to help you to sit down and take that time. Maybe it's not 30 days like Linda did. May whatever time works for you and really evaluate and see what do I want out of life? This is where I've been. This is what I have. Where do I want to go? And what do I need to do to get there? What are some things that I need to change with my relationship, with myself, with whatever it is, and do that evaluation? Now, Linda, when people start making bold pivots in life, where do you recommend they begin? Their mindset, your skills, strategy? What are some of the things that they can
Mindset.
do to be? Yes.
Mindset, everything. How you think. Like, we've been raised a certain way. Our ancestors, even us, we were talking earlier, and I was saying, I told my sons things to keep them alive in their youth because we were at a time where little brown boys were coming up missing and shot and in gangs and all these negative things, and I didn't want my boys to be that. So I told them different things to keep them safe. Well, now they're grown. Those different things may or may not apply. But in our lives, we have to I have a young lady, Dr. Ewan, who does unlearn and live, right? That's her brand, unlearn and live. And she teaches people how to unlearn the things that we used to learn to keep us safe and live the things that will keep us becoming successful in this day and time. Because the Bible tells us to serve this present age. And so this is our calling. This is it. We're to serve this present age that we're living in now. And so some of the things that we used to tell our kids or used to do in life may or may not apply. These days, I'm thinking we probably need to go back to in this time that we're living in currently to be safe and so many things happening in the world, Father God. I'm just thinking now we may need to go back to the old landmark
And wow.
and go
Yeah.
back
I
to
mean,
some of those things that kept us safe years ago may be applicable now, where there was a period of time when they were not applicable. But
yeah.
you need to serve this current age, and you do need to be present, and you need to unlearn things that are no longer serving you.
Yeah, yeah, I certainly agree. So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to create their own purpose driven business but doesn't know where to start? Where should they start?
So somebody's doing it. There's nothing new under the sun. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing new. So find who's leading and doing that. They've already came across your life in whatever way they did and reach out to them. Have a conversation. How did you get started? And that's the thing about Steve. Steve was like, I would tell anybody how I got started, the things I did. But a lot of people go to those people and they want what they have. And it's
Yes.
don't ask for what they have, honey. Ask them, how did you get started? Where should I start? Because whoever there, nothing's new. So whoever is leading the charge in that industry, in that place, in that space, doing what you do want to do, if it's cooking, if it's cleaning, if it's I have people that are scientists, I have people that are inventors, like I have people that are doing all kind of things. I always say we do more than hair and fish. We we're capable of so much more. And so I have people that are scientists. Actually, one of my good friends is a rocket scientist. Like I know two now. I told him I met Mr. Johnson who did the super soaker, and then now I know him. And so now I know two rocket scientists in my life, and they're both black. So imagine that. But we can do amazing things if you ever I spent time in Africa. I actually put my feet on the ground of the soil of my ancestors. My mom, her DNA, if you go to africanancestry.com, it can show you where your parents' maternal DNA started. My mother's was in Cameroon. My father's was in Burkina Faso. So I actually had the opportunity to go to Douala in Cameroon and put my feet on the soil of my ancestors. Like, you have no idea how empowering that is. And so look in your family, you probably have some successes that you don't know about, but dig into your genealogy, find out who you are. When you're surfing, like you were saying earlier, researching who you are, what you like, what you don't like. Go find out who you are.
Certainly a good place to start. Any
Mhm.
last word that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, I want any of the business owners. So I do this whole trying to help people find themselves. And I love, love, love that I get to do that. But my passion, that my ministry is entrepreneurship. So I teach businesses how to get government contracting for their businesses because, against popular belief, the government still has to run regardless of who's in office. And so I teach people how to position their businesses so that they're the best option for business owners. So if you are new and you have an idea you want to see if it'll make a good business, then please reach out to me. Or if you are an existing business and you want to expand your business and you're interested in government contracting, then reach out to me. I do it on every day. I'm a Kauffman Foundation affiliate, which means I have the number one entrepreneur curriculum in the world from the number one philanthropist of entrepreneurs in the world.
And with that, I want to share one of the best places to contact Linda, and it's getthebusiness.org. And on that website, you'll be able to find the contact us form. Linda, thank you so much for joining us on the Dr. Seb Talks Money podcast. I know we could go on and on and on and talk about all of this. There's just so much more to uncover because our people fail for lack of knowledge. And we
Absolutely.
want to make sure that we are a conduit, that we are
Absolutely.
able to provide some measure of information, some measure of inspiration to people so they know that there is a way. There are ways to be successful, and your success might not look like mine, but you can still be successful. So
Absolutely.
I hope that we did that for those of you who are listening. So thanks again, Linda, for coming on today's show, sharing your inspiring story and insight.
Thank
That
you.
it's
Thank
never
you.
too late to build the dream that you envision.
Absolutely. I'm 65, if anyone don't know. So I'm out here doing the thing, and you can
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, friends, if today's conversation resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone, a friend, a family member, a coworker who could use a little encouragement on their own journey. This is Dr. Sav saying, stay savvy, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so very much.